Hi, I'm Paul Germain, your host for Smart Boating. As you know, if you watched the show before, we cover a variety of topics, from hurricane protection to man overboard, and the general concept is to deliver you information that will help you make smarter decisions and have more fun on the water. But every now and then we take a side trip, which I think you'll find interesting, and that's the case today. We're going to dive into the world of model boats with our guest, Fred Clausen, who has been a collector of model boats for quite some time. Welcome, Fred.
Hi, Paul. Thank you very much.
Fred, you know, we've got a really neat show here, something that I don't think a lot of people know about, so I think they're going to be really interested in it. But before we get into it, can you share a little bit about your background with them in terms of whether it's boating or model boating?
Well, my whole life has been filled with boating, and I've been boating since probably about age 10 up in the Adirondacks and Lake Winnipesaukee, and just have a love of the water. And I still have a couple of my old outboard engine toy motors from when I was 10 years old. And I got really into it back 19 years ago when I bought some cottages on the lake to run as a business, a retirement business, and decided that I would put them on the shelves and let the kids look at them. And the problem is they wanted to play with them.
Right.
So they came off the shelves very quickly and started my collection of what you're going to see today.
Oh, that's excellent. We've got quite a variety, so I'm very interested in getting into it.
Great. I'm ready to begin, too.
Well, Fred, you know, in the world of model boats, just like in the world of larger boats, there's a tremendous variety, particularly in the older boats. You know, they actually had personalities of their own, and I think that carried it over to models too. And this is a very interesting boat you have in front of you. It's got what looks like a dragon insignia on it.
This is the Japanese Dragon boat that I have become to specialize in.
Oh.
I shouldn't admit, but I probably have about at least 20 of them.
Oh, you do?
This one has been restored and is in excellent condition. My friend John Guest in Arkansas has restored it. It's a very unusual boat because it has the red and the green bubble lights that we haven't seen on boats before. And it has a very large mast, an antenna mast.
Yeah.
Usually they're a lot smaller. This has circles and stars.
Oh.
It has the beautiful Buick ornament on the front, as well as a couple of horns. And what's interesting is the steering wheel is the on and off switch.
Okay.
And you turn it, and it puts the motion, the engine in motion. And you'll notice very carefully, if you look, there are eyes in the Dragon.
Oh,
and if there are batteries in there, they do light up when the engine comes on.
I noticed this was twin screw.
Yes.
Yeah.
Single engine inside, but it's got
Single
a splitter, and it goes down with two springs, go to twin screws. It gives the same amount of power. This one, I believe, has 6 D-cell batteries in it.
Oh, okay.
And you have a tiller handle on the rudder, so you set it, and if you want the boat to come back to you, you set the direction before you put it in the water.
Wow.
But this is one of the best shaped Dragon boats that I have seen.
Yeah, that's really a pretty boat. Well, let's look at another one here, because you have such a variety of boats. This boat looks pretty old, quite frankly.
This one, I believe, is my oldest boat.
It is.
The person I bought it from was an antique dealer. He had no interest in boats, but he said it came from the 40s. And just looking about how crude and basic it is, I believe him. Now, this one is special because the engine is one that I've never seen before. I doubt it works. I haven't tried to clean it up at all.
Yeah.
But the steering wheel, if you look, there are little eyelets along the edges here.
See that.
And that hooked to the rudder.
Yeah.
And then there was a bracket on the rudder. So
the
that
steering would actually steer
the boat.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there may have been some kind of a cover over the batteries that sit in here.
Yeah.
There's no plastic in the windshield.
Oh.
It's strictly a metal windshield. But this one is 21 inches long, and it's I call it crude because it's not as updated in the parts and the ornaments. It's just a basic model boat.
Right, but it's rare because it's so old and it hasn't been restored, right?
Yes, yep. That adds to the value because no one has messed with anything on it.
Right. Wow, what an interesting boat. Nice shape, too. It's a
Yes.
long and slender shape.
Yeah.
Now, this one has kind of the dragon theme as we saw on the earlier boat.
This is what I call an imitation dragon boat.
Okay, all right.
It is a label that has the dragon on it. There are no working lights on the side.
All right.
This one was made by the Fleetline company. What they did is it has a Bakelite hull,
Okay.
and it has the wooden deck on the top.
Oh, that's an unusual combination.
A very unusual combination. Then after the Bakelite, a lot of the boats went to plastic, but this is a very, Bakelite's a very heavy plastic. It has a basic engine.
Okay. Is that a horseshoe engine?
No, it's not a horseshoe,
Not a
just a
horseshoe.
basic small engine.
I see.
It has the shift lever as far as the on and off switch, and it does have a working spotlight for the headlight.
Yeah.
The usual flag on the back. And this is a replacement cover.
Oh, it is.
Yes, I can tell it's not the original one.
Right.
But it does, they match the color pretty well. But it's one that I'm happy to have in my collection as is, and will not spend any time on redoing it.
Yeah. Yeah, just the original boat.
Yep.
Now here's another one. This one's a little larger, a little broader.
Yeah. This is also a Fleetline.
Okay. They made quite a few boats.
They made a lot of boats.
Yeah.
Now this one has gone to the plastic hull.
Okay.
They gave up on the Bakelite after the previous boat, but this one is a plastic hull, and it does have an original K&O engine on the inside. And K&O was the name of the company before the Fleetline people took it over and brought it over to the U.S.
I see.
They used to sell the K&O parts and engines for K&O, and then they bought the company. But this is called the Sea Wolf. All of the names they've come up with most of them have had nautical themes.
Yes.
And this is, in a way, it's basic. The lights are white. They don't have the red and green that you see on some of them.
Okay.
But it's and I believe it holds 4 D-cell batteries, and it's in pretty good condition. I would not have that restored either.
Yeah.
But that's.
Yeah, it's nice and restored. Let's back away from that just a second and talk a little bit about the whole value combination, restored versus non-restored, valuation of boats. How does a collector or even a serious hobbyist figure out maybe what boat to buy or how much to pay for a boat or whether to restore it or not?
If you can restore it yourself, it's a lot less expensive.
Okay.
You can buy a boat for $20 that needs a lot of work, and you can put $80 into restoring it. And you have $100 into it, and it probably isn't worth $100.
Okay.
It just depends on if you want the boat for your collection. A lot of people want the boats in original paint and not restored at all.
Okay.
I like it either way. I have maybe 10% of my boats restored. I would rather spend that money into buying more boats than do having the boats restored.
Yeah, makes sense. So it's an individual decision by the collector.
Yep.
Fred, you know, one of the interesting things about these boats is they came with different materials and different constructions and different ways of propulsion. So this little boat now is going on a wind-up.
This is a wind-up, and it's all made of tin, and it's made in Japan.
Yeah.
The company name is unknown, but the logo is a bee in a little square box. And it has its own trailer with it. It fits nicely on there, and you keep winding it, and it keeps going.
That's nice. You don't have to worry about the batteries at all.
No batteries, right. But being tin, it's been played with and got some nicks and scratches, but it still structurally is all there, and the wind-up, which usually is what breaks, has not broken.
That's
so
really
it's in
neat.
Great shape.
Yeah. It's got a little outboard rudder here on the end.
Yeah,
Isn't that interesting?
You set that wherever you want the boat to go.
Right. Well, let's look at our next one here. And this is a wind-up as well, right?
This is. Now this is.
Was that popular at a certain time?
You have a skier on there, a wakeboarder on there.
Yeah.
This is a monogram mahogany plastic, interesting design.
Yes, very interesting.
It's got a wind up. You have to get in under the cover.
Hatch. Yeah. Yeah, well.
And we can turn that one, pardon the hand. Oh. It does still work.
Same thing.
It's basically the same. It's all plastic, very few, no lights, no electricity, no battery. It's in great shape. The fact that it still has the wakeboarder with it is unusual. And it looks like the original string because the shade of maroon brown matches. So it's one of these unusual ones, usually the spring mechanism is broken on it.
Now, do you think this was a Japanese boat as well, or
No,
American?
I believe this was made in the United States.
Oh, it was?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And when did they start coming out with these models?
This would have been the mid-50s.
Mid-50s?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. All right, so it looked like the mahogany boats that were very popular at that time.
Yes, yep. Because they wanted to make sure that the kids had something as realistic as the real ones as they could. So.
Right. Well, here's one. This one's on a trailer. And we get the trailer there, correct?
Yeah,
and then starting to see some fins here now. So
yes.
The fins were what, late 50s,
late 50s,
early 60s?
yes. Yep.
Yeah, late 50s probably,
Yep.
right?
And we're back to the Fleetline boats. This is the company that started in Japan, came over to the United States, and now they've gone from the wood to the wood and the plastic, and now all plastic.
Okay.
And this has a battery engine. It's an inboard engine, and battery powered. It's in great shape. It comes in a couple different colors. This happens to be the red one.
Okay.
And it does have the trailer that came with it. It's sold as a set.
Oh, it is.
And
okay.
it sits right on top.
Now,
like
does that add value, having the trailer included with the
Yes,
boat?
because that was part of the original package deal. It's not like you're putting it on some of the other ones we've shown that have a trailer that doesn't belong to it. This is sold as a set.
I see.
And,
I see. Yeah, this looks kind of like the Batmobile with the fins
yes,
and everything.
yes.
That's kind of a very interesting boat. And then here's one here. Now, is this the original box for that boat?
This is the original box, and this also is the original instructions and plans on how to run the boat. This was made in France by the Hornby Meccano, which was the big manufacturer in England and in France.
Oh.
And it's unusual to get to the batteries. There are little brackets on the side
I see,
that you can pop off.
Yeah.
Should give you a little better angle here. And it's all plastic. There's no metal. The battery holders inside are metal.
Okay.
But the fact that it's all plastic and the fact that it has the original box with it adds to the value.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And what year, roughly, what time period is this? Early 60s?
Late 50s, early 60s.
Late 50s, early 60s.
Yep.
Well, it's interesting. What I'm seeing is a different hull shape, too. It looks like it's got a keel on it, and it's got what they call a round bilge hull as opposed to a V hull.
Okay.
Yep. So
yeah, you're right.
Very different hull design on that.
And it has a little gear shift in here too, which I'm not sure if that's the on and off switch. It's frozen, so I don't really know what it does. I have not tried to put batteries in it.
Okay. All right. Now, let me ask you this. The boats come from different countries. Japan, they come from the United States, they come from France. As a collector, is there more value associated with getting a boat from one country or another country, or any sort of factors about that?
Most of the model boats come from Japan. Back after the war, they wanted the Japanese to make toys for the U.S. kids.
Oh, really?
And they concentrated a lot on the boats, and they had many different designs for the boats. I like the fact that of the Japanese boats, they show more detail.
I see.
In the die-cast cars that they made too, they show a lot of detail in that. This particular boat has got nice detail. There's not that many that I have found that are made in France. This one has come from the internet, and I believe this one came from Europe to add to my collection.
Well, Fred, you know, one of the things I like about these classic model boats is they're all a little different, whether it's the hull configuration, the manufacturer of origin, the paint scheme. This one here is a good example of that. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
This to me is a standard design of a cabin cruiser. It's on the small side. It's only 9.5 inches.
Yeah.
We have a couple of others coming up that are very much different design cabin cruisers. But this one is your basic standard cabin cruiser. It's made by a company in Japan by the name of MHM. As you can see the logo on the box. They made a lot of different boats, and this one is interesting because of the pale green color on the sides of the boat.
Yes, on the hull.
And the hull.
Yep.
And it has not been restored. It's in very good condition.
Yeah.
It's not missing any parts. It does have a plunger push-pull switch back here. It is missing the top part of that, but that's minor. I just haven't put one on yet.
And you get the box.
And I've got the box.
Right?
That's key to this one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is this the box that it came in?
This is the box that it came in, yes.
Wow.
A lot of times on eBay you'll buy a boat and it just comes in any box because people have no idea what the original box should be.
Right. Whoever got the boat probably threw the box away,
Yeah.
right? In many cases.
Most cases you're 100% right.
Yep. Well, that's just an interesting little boat. Flat hull on that. I guess it's made to perform with little power. Now, this looks like a sport fisherman or something.
This is a sport fisherman. This is made by Rico. This has been fully restored by a fellow by the name of Rick Rotundo, I believe out in the Midwest. And he's done a beautiful job on the restoration on it.
Yeah.
Slightly different flag than on other previous boats, but his color palette is very good. The blue is very, very bright.
Yes.
The hull bottom is a dark blue, but the mahogany he's refinished in an actually beautiful way. It shows all the grain of the wood.
Yeah. What do you get for detail on the hardware up there on the bow? You get
there's a red and green light. Yeah, a couple lights, red and green light, and it's got a couple of horns, non-working horns, and the life preserver.
Yeah. Very big on safety in these boats. The life preserver.
I do have to take this off and show you on the inside because this is a gear-driven engine, which is unusual from the other ones we've looked at, and it does. I'd say maybe 10% of the boats have the gear-driven engine, which I should turn it a little more so the camera can see.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's got a nice ridge line on the deck here on the front part.
Yeah.
But they did a beautiful job. And on the back, you can see it's got the twin exhausts.
I saw that. That's an
for the
unusual
back, which
detail.
is unusual.
Right.
This company Rico usually did a lot of that work.
A lot of detail work.
Yes.
Yeah. Boy, that's in beautiful shape.
Thank you.
Well, here's another cabin cruiser here, a little different color scheme and a different manufacturer, perhaps?
Yes, this is an ITO. This is redone by my friend John down in Arkansas. Again, the detailed engineer. He paints everything meticulously, the detail, the chrome parts. It's a little bit of an unusual round cabin design. Most of the cabins on the cabin cruiser are square.
More squared off, yeah.
Yep. This particular one has got some classic lines, and as far as I know, the colors are a redo of the original colors on the boat.
Oh, is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, and the dark green and the red and the boot stripe.
Yep.
Yep. Yep.
And it's got the Buick ornament on the front, the working spotlight, green spotlight in the front also, and some horns, and the plunger switch with the correct top on it, and it's got the tiller rudder to help steer it and bring it back to you.
And this has been restored, you said?
This has been restored, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, that's just beautiful. Really nice. And we've got one last boat. Now, this is on a trailer, a tandem trailer. Is that unusual? Do most boats come on a tandem trailer? Or?
No, this was another special that my friend John had done. We'll come to the trailer in a minute, but this is what I call a retro design on the cabin cruiser. It's the only one I've ever seen. He did this probably about 10 years ago. It was in his collection, and he wanted to thin down his collection. And I asked him if I could buy it, and he said yes, and sent it to me. And he also sent me the trailer that he redid.
It's got a big tandem trailer there.
It's originally a Tonka trailer, and originally it was black. And he painted it the blue to come up with a little better accent on the boat that was going on it. So I bought it as a package deal. And he did add the wood rails, and he did add the felt on the top. And it's got the original wind-up rope. But this is very in the front here.
That's funny.
Very unusual as far as the cabin design. It's got the lever switch for the on and off switch in the back.
Oh, that is unusual. Now, you know, just talking in general about this type of boat, again, when I've been involved a lot with classic boats, antique boats, and the hardware and the authenticity is really important. Is that important in model boats as well? And is that ever an issue to secure the right parts or secure help in that area?
Coming up with the parts is very tough. Sometimes people will buy old boats just to pull off the parts and junk the boat and sell the parts or use the parts, which I've done myself. These are as close to original, because whenever John does anything, I know that he's researched it and it looks the way it's supposed to look.
Okay. All right. So that's a nice example of the right approach.
The right approach to restoration, and to me, because of the design, it's probably increased the value to have it restored.
Oh, it has. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, Fred, you know, this whole hobby of boat models, it was very popular in the 50s and the 60s, and of course in the 50s they were working with primarily all wood in both runabouts and cruisers, and you've got an example of a cruiser here, right?
Yes. This is an ITO cabin cruiser from the 50s. It has been restored by my friend John, and again in matching details to what would have been on the original boat. This is special because it has the Buick ornament on the front, which is very popular with the ITO boats, the green and the red lights. It has dual plunger switches in the back, and one is for the engine and one is for the lights.
Okay.
So, but he's restored everything. The cabin is slightly different because of the supports in the front, and it's a streamlined look, and it's called the Neptune.
The Neptune.
Yep, the Neptune is the name. It's got all the classic look of the ITO boats, the foot pads on the back.
Yeah.
But again, it's restored as based on the original colors of the boat.
Yeah, it's interesting that the hull shape underneath it looks like they moved from a displacement hull to a semi-planing hull in those years, roughly. So it's interesting to see that the models picked up some of the detail that the larger boats had.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
And again, they always have the
life
preserver. Well,
yes.
that's a good. I like that.
It has a lot of class to it.
That's safe boating right there. So that's a smart thing to do. And we got this guy. Now this guy's got again some more dragon ornamentation to it.
Yes, this is an unknown manufacturer, but it's the only cabin cruiser that I have seen with the dragon emblem on the side. This dragon's eyes do not light up.
Oh.
It's strictly been painted on.
Okay.
And it's a special boat because of the life preserver in the front.
Oh, yeah.
It says Tokyo, Japan, and someone has gone to the effort, I'm sure the manufacturer, to put it on with string rather than just gluing it on.
Oh, to hold it on there more securely.
Yes, that's very unusual to have it done that way. And I don't have another one that's like that. This one has the bubble lights in the front, but either the paint has worn off, the red and the green, or they were meant to be clear, but they're perfectly clear at this point.
What are those two items before the bubble lights?
Those are
Fred,
horns.
You know? Oh, they're horns.
They're horns.
Okay.
Yeah, they're rounded single horns.
I see.
And it has a few ornamentation cleats on the front, the railing.
Yeah.
This is the switch to turn the motor of the boat on and off. And it's got the tiller handle for the rudder. And when I got it, the cabin was missing one of the side rails, and my friend Jim repaired that and matched the blue to the blue in the life preserver.
Oh, yeah.
And therefore it's a pretty nice redo on the top. It's got some play action on the bottom, but it has not been destroyed, and I would not have this further redone because of the emblem of the dragon. Gives it the value in my feeling.
The authenticity, yeah. Right. Now that's an interesting old boat. Now this one here looks like it just came out of the factory.
This is very special to me.
Is it?
It's originally made by Rico, and I got it in not so good shape, and I told my friend John down in Arkansas about it, and he said, I have one just like that. He says, why don't you send it to me and I'll restore the two of them together? So he did, and he restored it to the original condition, and it was really hard to paint the railings, the black on the side.
Bet it was. Yeah.
A lot of detail work. There's more railings on this boat than I've seen on any other boat.
Yeah.
And what John did is he made it, and he called it the Lake House boat, which is the name of the cottages that I own in Weirs Beach.
Beautiful.
And he made a special stand for it, the Lake House stand.
Okay.
So he really personalized it for me,
Yeah.
but kept the original colors, the bright yellow seats on the back. The spotlight in the front works, it lights up.
Yeah.
Very unusual mast with the
it
extra
is.
side rails on it.
Okay. All right.
And it has the plunger on and off switch. And you have to unscrew the hatch, the cabin to get into the batteries. A lot of them will just lift off. This particular one has got little screws on each side to keep it tied on.
Yeah. I think it's unusual from not only the aspects that you talked about, but also how much bright work there is, if you will. Right?
Yeah, it's a beautifully shiny boat, and this one, typical of the Rico boats, has the exhaust ports on the back.
Oh, right.
It gives it a little more realism,
Yeah.
and also the side windows, 3 on each side below the deck.
Unusual.
Yes.
Yeah, you don't see that very often. Well, we've got probably the largest one we've seen so far here.
Yes.
This is a pretty big model.
A big boy.
When did you acquire that?
This one came to me from the fella in New York City. I bought, it's an ITO model, and I met him on eBay, and then we decided to do a deal on all the ITO boats in his collection. So I drove down to Brooklyn with a friend and picked up, I think, 6 ITO boats.
Wow.
And very, very special ones. I have seen these on eBay, but not this good a condition.
Oh, really?
And
Is this original, do you think?
This is original, yes. Yep. This it is missing the mast on the front light.
Okay.
It's got a huge streamlined spotlight on the deck that is wired in. And when you lift off the cabin, it has little wire connections that go to, you can see on the cabin sides.
Yes, it's got contacts there.
There's contacts, and it does have little wire connections here.
Yes, yes.
As well as you can see on this one, it has the ITO label
Right in there?
right in here.
Yes, yes. And twin screw.
Twin screws in this one.
Twin screw.
Yeah.
Wow. That's really something.
Yes, this is the Miss Sakura L, and it's 22 inches. It does take 6D batteries inside, so it's going to be a heavy boat going through the water.
Oh, it is.
It needs some special power.
Well, Fred, you know, it's hard to believe, but we've covered a lot of ground here today, and it's time to wrap up the show. We've looked at a lot of interesting boats, you know, a lot of the different designs and the unique characteristics that the different manufacturers pushed and created. Just fascinating subject. Is there anything you'd like to add before we wrap up the show today?
Well, we're ending on a big note. This is one of my biggest boats, the ITO King, and I would like to tell people that you don't always have to start on the biggest one. You can start on something small. I've done a lot on eBay, made a lot of friends on eBay, bought a lot of boats on eBay, and try something, collect, see if you can restore it. There's a website called toyoutboardmotors.com, run by Bob McDonald down in Queens, New York, and that will give you a lot of information on boats as well as the outboard motors. The biggest thing is to get started. If you have a real boat, you're probably going to have a few small model boats around.
Yeah. Well, it's a neat hobby.
And I want to thank you very much for coming here and doing this filming and letting me share the collection that I have with everybody, and with hopes it will further the hobby along.
I'm sure it will.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Smart Boating viewers, for watching today. If you've got questions or comments, visit us at the website, www.smartboatingus.com. Thank you.